Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 16, Text 11, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Ye Brahmanan Mai Dhiya Kshipataha Archayantaha Tushyat Hridaha Smita Sudha Ukshita Padma Vaktraha Vanya Anuraga Kalaya Atmaja Vat Grinantaha Sambodhayanti Aham Iva Aham Upahritaha Taihi Ye Brahmanan Maidhiya Kshipatorchayantas
Ye Brahmanan Maidhiya Kshipatorchayantas
Toshyadridhad Smita Sudhokshita Padma Vaktraha
Tushadridhasmita Sudhokshita Padma Vaktraha
Vanyanuraga Kalayatma Javad Grinantaha
Vanyanuraga Kalayatma Javad Grinantaha
Sambodhayantyaham ivaham upahritasthai Ye Brahmanan Maidhiya Kshipatorchayantas
Ye Brahmanan Maidhiya Kshipatorchayantas
Tushyadridha Smita Sudhokshita Padma Vaktraha
Tushadridhasmita Sudhokshita Padma Vaktraha
Vanyanuraga Kalayatma Javad Grinantah
Vanyanuraga Kalayatma Javad Grinantah
Sambodhayantyaham ivaham upahritasthai
Sambodhayantyaham ivaham upahritasthai
Ye Brahmanan Maidhiya Kshipatorchayantas
Ye Brahmanan Maidhiya Kshipatorchayantas
Tushyadridhasmita Sudhokshita Padma Vaktraha
Tushadridhasmita Sudhokshita Padma Vaktraha
Vanyunaraga Kalayatma Javad Grinantaha
Vanyanuraga Kalayatma Javad Grinantaha
Sambodhayantyaham ivaham upahritasthai
Sambodhayantyaham ivaham upahritasthai
Ye Brahmanan Maidhiya Kshipatorchayantas
Ye Brahmanan Maidhiya Kshipatorchayantas
Tushyadridha Smita Sudhokshita Padma Vaktraha
Tushadridhasmita Sudhokshita Padma Vaktraha
Vanyanuraga Kalayatma Javad Grinanta
Vanyanuraga Kalayatma Javad Grinanta
Sambodhayantyaham ivaham upahritasthai
Sambodhayantyaham ivaham upahritasthai
Ye Brahmanan Maidhiya Kshipada Archayantas
Ye Brahmanan Maidhiya Kshipatorchayantas
Tushyadridhasmita Sudhokshita Padma Vaktraha
Tushadridhasmita Sudhokshita Padma Vaktraha
Vanyanuraga Kalayatma Javad
Vanyanuraga Kalayatma Javad Grinantaha
Sambodhayantyaham ivaham upahritasthai
Sambodhayantyaham ivaham upahritasthai
Ye Brahmanan Maidhiya Kshipatorchayantas
Ye Brahmanam Vaidyakshipadochayantas
Dushyadridasmita sudokshita padmavakra
Dushyadridasmita sudokshita padmavakra
Vanyanuraga kalyatmajavadvinanta
Vangyanuraga kalayatmajavadvinanta
Bodhayantyaham vivaham pahitastai
Sambodayantyaham vivaham upadhitastai
Ye Brahmanam Vaidyakshipadochayantas
Ye Brahmanam Vaidyakshipadochayantas
Dushyadridasmita sudokshita padmavakra
Dushyadridasmita sudokshita padmavakra
Vanyanuraga kalayatmajavadvinanta
Vanyanuraga kalayatmajavadvinanta
Sambodayantyaham vivaham upahitastai
Sambodayantyaham vivaham upadhitastai
Ye brahmanan vaidyakshipataschayantas
Ye Brahmanam Vaidyakshipadochayantas
Dushyadridasmita sudokshita padmavakra
Dushyadridasmita sudokshita padmavakra
Vanyanuraga kalayatmajavadvinanta
Vanyanuraga kalayatmajavadvinanta
Sambodayantyaham vivaham upadhitastai
Sambodayantyaham vivaham upadhitastai
Ye, which persons? Brahmanan, the Brahmanas. Mai, in me. Dhiya, with intelligence. Kshipataha, uttering harsh words. Achayantaha, respecting. Tushyat, gladdened. Hridaha, hearts. Smita, smiling. Sudha, nectar. Ukshita, wet. Padma, lotus-like. Tatraha, faces. Vanya, with words. Anuraga kalaya, loving. Atmajavat, like a sun. Gurnantaha, praising. Sambodhayanti, pacify. Aham, I. Eva, as. Aham, I. Upahritaha, being controlled. Taihi, by them. On the other hand, they captivate my heart who are gladdened in heart, and who, their lotus faces enlightened by nectarian smiles, respect the Brahmanas even though the Brahmanas utter harsh words. They look upon the Brahmanas as my own self and pacify them by praising them in loving words, even as a son would appease an angry father, or as I am appeasing you. I am pacifying you. Purport: it has been observed in many instances in the Vedic scriptures that when the Brahmanas or Vaishnavas curse someone in an angry mood, the person who is cursed does not take it upon himself to treat the Brahmanas or Vaishnavas in the same way. There are many examples of this. For instance, the sons of Kuvera, when cursed by the great sage Narad, did not seek revenge in the same harsh way, but submitted. Here also, when Jaya and Vijaya were cursed by the four Kumaras, they did not become harsh towards them. Rather, they submitted. That should be the way of treating Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. One may sometimes be faced with a grievous situation created by a Brahmana, but instead of meeting him with a similar mood, one should try to pacify him with a smiling face and mild treatment. Brahmanas and Vaishnavas should be accepted as earthly representatives of Narayana. Nowadays, some foolish persons have manufactured the term Daridra Narayana, indicating that the poor man should be accepted as the representative of Narayana. But in Vedic literature, we do not find that poor men should be treated as representatives of Narayana. Of course, those who are unprotected are mentioned here, but the definition of this phrase is clear from the Shastras. The poor man should not be unprotected, but the Brahmana should especially be treated as the representative of Narayana and should be worshipped like him. It is specifically said that to pacify the brahmanas, one's face should be lotus-like. A lotus-like face is exhibited when one is adorned with love and affection. In this respect, the example of the fathers being angry at the son, and the sons trying to pacify the father with smiling and sweet words is very appropriate. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurinmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vandeham Shri Guru Shriyatah Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. You want to translate? Okay. This is going on. Okay. So the translation of this verse, Prabhupada has added the phrase for clarity, on the other hand. Although it begins, that means it's in apposition to the previous verse. Although both verses begin with the same word, ye, which means which persons. So a contrast is being given here between the previous verse and this verse. The previous verse describes those persons who mistreat the brahmanas, the cows, and the defenseless creatures. And the result of their doing so is that they are torn to pieces by the Yamadutas. This verse which we're reading today says that one should therefore not disrespect the brahmanas, but one should be very much favorable towards them. Even if the brahmanas sometimes appear to mistreat one, one should be very much trying to pacify them rather than trying to fight with them and tit for tat. Do you know what that means? That means to reciprocate in the same way. In the Bible we see that there is a saying, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. In other words, if someone pokes your eye out, you should poke his eye out back, or if he punches you and the tooth comes out, you should do the same thing. But then, that is the Old Testament law, but then Jesus said no. Tolerate. So these are, although it's in the backward Jewish culture, it shows there are different levels for different people. That the ordinary law is that one should reciprocate. If someone in the same way, if someone does something wrong, he's punished to the same degree. But Jesus was recommending on a higher platform just to tolerate. So this is especially in regard to the brahmanas. The brahmanas are very dangerous people. If one disrespects them, one can get in a lot of trouble. They're very great persons in the sense also that they're very powerful, that to help one also. One devotee was telling me he does rituals, sanskaras. This is part of Vedic culture, which Prabhupada also wanted introduced. So some people criticize him, there's no brahmanas in Kali Yuga, you just chant Hare Krishna. But it's very clear that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur personally introduced these sanskars according to the Vaishnava system, because they were being done according to the Smarta system. He wanted them done. He had courses to train devotees how to do these sanskaras for devotees. He had courses, but then they could become Pancharatrika Acharya and perform these sanskars. So anyway, this devotee is doing this, and he got news. He was asked to perform some Bali Yagya for a devotee who had been employed as a spy in Lebanon, and whose car, he had been shot and then his car was blown up. So he was performing the yagya, and then after it they got a phone call from that devotee that actually he was shot, but he wasn't dead, but he had been in a coma. And it was exaggerated, the story. He wasn't blown up. He was in a coma, and while the yagya was, he didn't know the yagya was going on, but he felt that he was going to die. In his coma-like state, he was unconscious. He felt like he was going to die, but then he felt like someone was calling him, and they called him back. And he was in Lebanon, and the devotee was on the other side of the world doing this yagya, and he's still got the bullet marks, but he's still alive. So, on the other hand, talking about the Yamadutas, I also received an email from a devotee lady. I'm not exactly sure who she is. Her name was given, but it said that her father was very old and he was dying, and he wanted to see her, so he must have been living in Europe or America, so she went there to see him. And all his life he didn't like her being a devotee, and he was a regular kami in the Western country, cow eater, drinker, and womanizer, and all this thing. So, but now he had cancer, and he had a limited time to live, so he was a little bit favorable now to his daughters being a devotee, because he was very disturbed that now I have to die. Now that also struck me, just like I was just in Vellore, and there's old Sri Vaishnav couple. They've been coming for a long time to our programs. And last time I saw him, it looked like he was going to die pretty soon. And actually I got the news that he died 10 days after I'd been there. So, you know what I'm talking about, right? His wife is still coming there. She's also very old. So a very pious couple. As soon as we had our ISKCON programs there, long before Akinchan went, and they were coming and very much devoted. I mean, and not super Paramahamsas or anything like that, very devoted, pious people. So it seemed anyone could tell. He could also tell he was going to die soon. But when I saw him last time, he was very happy and not disturbed. Like that. But then we see the karmi, cow eater, and very disturbed, and I've got cancer and I'm going to die. So anyway, the daughter went back to Vrindavan, and then there came a phone call that, well, you have to come immediately because he's now in pretty bad shape. You have to come because he wants you to be there. So she went into the hospital. And the mother left. She said, thank you very much for coming. And she doesn't want to be with him because it's too much. For the karmi, it's a reminder that that's for me too. And they can't handle seeing someone. He's distressed that I'm going to die, and they don't know what to do. So anyway, this man, he was terrified, literally terrified. He said, get them away from me. This was going on for some days. Oh, you saw them at the window. Oh, the dogs. He was saying all things like this. And his daughter, who's a devotee, it took her some time to understand, some days. He was saying this for some days. She couldn't understand that the Yamadutas are coming and checking him out. And the dogs, as described in the Bhagavatam. So she couldn't understand, and then afterwards she realized that even though you may read about it in the Shastra, that Maya, by her potency, you don't realize. That means that there may be sinful people, even they hear from Shastra about the Yamadutas, but they don't realize actually when it happens because they're covered by Maya. Someone may think, well, I'll just do all nonsense and at the end I'll just say Narayana, like a Jamil. But you may not be allowed to. You may not be allowed to. By Maya, you get what you deserve. It's not that you can cheat Krishna and just I'll do all nonsense, and then when the Yamadutas come, ha ha, Yamadutas, Narayana, go away. It won't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You become so terrified that you can't think at all. And even his daughter, she couldn't think. So she didn't know what to do. She was chanting Hare Krishna, and she had some Yamuna water, and she was putting on his head, and still the Yamadutas were coming. And she said to the nurse, he said, "Oh, that's normal. They gave it some name, such and such syndrome, pre-death terror syndrome or something like that." They said they train us even in the school, in the medical school. They train us how to deal with it. They inject them with morphine or something. So for them, it's normal. Most of the patients, they're like that. So anyway, in time she realized what was going on, and then she just, the last 3 hours when he was dying, she just held his body and chanted continuously in his ear, and he left through his mouth. So she saved him at the end. So, and she was very shocked because it meant a lot to her, because she realized that, the nurses said, well, everyone, they're just completely terrified, and the terrible punishment that they're under, it's real. It's not something which is, we read about the Yamadutas, Yamadutas. It's real, and it's terrifying, and it's horrible. Everyone has to undergo it. Except, what does Yamaraj himself say to the Yamadutas? That you bring to me all the sinful people, all the people who never chanted the name of Krishna. Bring them to me. So I may say, well, so many people are chanting the name of Krishna. You see, even in Krishnanagar, the city called Krishnanagar in Bengal, near Mayapur, there are so many Muslims there who kill cows. They're also saying, oh, they'll go to Calcutta, they'll buy a ticket, one for the train, one ticket for Krishnanagar. They're saying Krishna. But that may not count as proper chanting. Because now so many stories are coming here. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you know that story. He entered there was visiting various holy places connected with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in the evening, he was brought some of his sons. One of them was Bimala Prasad, later to be Bhaktistan Saraswati. He brought Bimala, Kamala, one of his sons. So he came in. He was close to the village, but it was night time, and in those days they weren't neon lights and all this kind of thing. So they asked for some shelter. They took some shelter in one house at night, and then just as they were going to go to sleep and everything, they were asked to some place. Oh, there's an empty house. You can stay there. So then, just towards the beginning of the night, some bricks started flying here and there. So it was ghosts. So in the morning, they entered the village, and people, who are you, where you come from? Oh, my name is Kedarnath Bhaktivinoda, and they knew him from his writings. And they're very happy, a great Vaishnava, and visited their village. So they said, well, where did you stay last night? We stayed in this house just outside the village near the temple. I said, well, how did you stay there? There's a terrible ghost living there. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, I chanted Hare Krishna loudly and he went away. He'll never come back, you don't worry. He said, but that was the pujari in the temple. All his life he was chanting Hare Krishna. And then how about he became a ghost, And then by your chanting Hare Krishna, he went away. How is that possible? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained that no, he never chanted Hare Krishna. He may have seemed to have chanted Hare Krishna, but someone who is chanting Hare Krishna for a show, just to impress people, and then they'll respect him, and or he's engaged in sinful activities, that chanting, it's not actual chanting at all. He quoted Jagadananda Pandit that Ashadhu sange bhai Krishna naam nahi hoy, baire Krishna naam bote, baire naam akhor bote, tabu naam nahi hoy. That if one is not chanting in the association of devotees or under the guidance of devotees, under the instructions of devotees, then there's no Krishna Naam will not manifest. The external aksharas, the sound may be there, but Krishna will not agree to manifest himself on the tongue of a person, a cheating person who wants to cheat others by chanting Hare Krishna. So, the Yamadutas are real. And the power of the Brahmanas, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, is also very real. Of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is not born in a Brahmin family. He's an actual Brahmin. Bhaktistan Saraswati Thakur compiled this book, Brahmana O Vaishnava, just to explain who is an actual Brahmana. One who is born in a Brahmana family, they may or may not be a Brahmana. They have more opportunity if that culture, the Brahminical culture may be there. They may have more opportunity to be a Brahmana, but a Brahmana in the full sense of the term is a Vaishnava. So he established that. A real Brahmana is a Vaishnava. So sometimes people are surprised how we're giving Brahmin initiation to people of low caste or no caste. In the Western countries they have no caste. In India also there's not only Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras, there are also those who are below. Even in Bengal they call Nama Shudra, means below Shudra. So that means those who are like those who are cleaning the toilet and the sweeper, Bangi they're called in Hindi. They don't have any caste. Prabhupada explained once he saw in Allahabad, I think it was, he was in the Bangi colony and he saw some Bangi, by their activity, they're cleaning out the toilet. Nowadays they don't do it because everyone has this flush toilet and they don't clean it. But previously you pass stool in the city, you'd pass stool in some can, and then the Bungis would come and they'd sweep it up and they'd bring the pigs and like this. So Prabhupada saw, he said he saw some Vaishnavas there, very nicely worshipping the deities. They were disciples of Radharaman, Gera in Vrindavan, Goswamis. So their position, such people, their position is much better than a Brahmana who is by caste Brahmana, but not a Vaishnava. That is quoted in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Shad karma nipano vipra mantra tantra visharadaha avaishnava guru nasyan Vaishnava Swapacha Guru. There's another verse. Anyway, this says that even if one is expert in performing all rituals according to Karma Kanda, but he's not a Vaishnava, he's not fit to be a guru, whereas one who's born in a family of dog eaters, he's fit to be a guru if he's a Vaishnava. And the other verse is what's that other verse? That Chandalopi Dvija Shreshta Hari Bhakta Parayanaha. How does that continue? A Chandala, one born in a Chandala family, is the best of the twice born if he's a devotee of Hari. But Hari Bhakti Vihinascha, what is that? Dvijopi Chandaladama. But if one is devoid of Hari Bhakti, then even if he's born in a Brahmana family, then he's lower than a Chandala, worse than a Chandala. This is the Vaishnava consideration. So one should pacify the Brahmana. One should not go for tit for tat. Even if the Brahmana becomes angry at one should accept that, knowing that that is mercy upon him who's being chastised. Now, of course, this kind of injunction has been misused by the Brahmanas. Just like Rajahari Prabhu, the town president in ISKCON, was telling me that someone came to him and said, I'm a Vrajvasi Brahmana, so give me some donation. Nothing to offer, nothing that I'll benefit you by speaking some Hari Katha or something. Just give me a donation. So Brajahari gave him 50 rupees. He said, oh, 50 rupees? You should give me at least 500. So Brajahari, who's himself from a Brahmana family, brought him to Devaki Nandan, who blasted him up and down and threw him out. Because Brahmana doesn't mean simply a license to beg. Brahmana means that he's concerned for the welfare of others. He's on the spiritual platform. Brahmajanatiti Brahmana, who's on the spiritual platform, not that I'm born in a Brahmin family, therefore you should give me some money and support me. For this reason, the Brahmana caste became despised here in Tamilnadu, actually, by the lower caste, when they pointed out that, of course, there are many good Brahmanas also, but there were others who simply with loafer class, Prabhupada used to call them. There's no work, and simply, I'm a Brahmana and you feed me. You get not, I won't touch your food, but you give me money. Your food we cannot touch, but your money, yes. That we'll take your money, but your food we cannot touch. Maybe your wife also we can touch, but not your. In some cases, they might go to some tantra. They're not supposed to, but they might. It was said that sometimes some of the Brahmanas, they'd go to these tantric get-togethers in which they'd eat meat and mix up with all different Shudras' wives and drink wine and so many things. And then in the morning again, Brahmana, pure, give donation. So there was a lot of hypocrisy in the name of being a Brahmana. And therefore the people, they didn't want to support the Brahmanas anymore. And actually we find that nowadays our ISKCON devotees, they're being accepted as Brahmanas by people in general because they're living to that standard. So it's this Brahminical culture Prabhupada wanted to reinstitute. How important it is. This very high culture. Still today there are some Brahmanas by caste who follow that culture. They may even be Smartas, not Vaishnavas, but still to a large extent that culture is there. Even the Smartas in many ways, even though they're basically atheistic and materialistic, but the culture they follow, even without Krishna consciousness, in itself it's so good, it's exemplary for human society. So we should try to learn this, especially Western devotees and even the Indian devotees who are living in India can try to pick up this Brahminical culture. When we say Brahminical culture, it doesn't mean only the Brahmanas follow, it means that others also follow, but maybe to lesser extent. But all these things like giving things with the right hand and not with the left hand, and chanting the names of the Lord. I saw in Bangladesh, even those who are non-caste, below, they followed this culture. They're not Brahmins, they're not Kshatriyas, they're not Vaishyas, not even Shudras. But all these different things, they'll follow when they come to in the presence of a Vaishnava, they'll bow down. Before starting the kirtan, they'll offer respect to the mridanga, because mridanga is paraphernalia of the Lord. So all these, if there's any elderly person, they'll give all respect. Even the elderly person may sometimes be. Elderly persons often are unreasonable. They often become irritable. So there's no question of shouting back at them or any such thing. Unfortunately, that culture is spoiled now by the TV. Again in Vellore the other day, TV and modern education. I saw some boy 5 years old and just acting like he's trained up to go to Yamaraj when he leaves his body. So actually, even though 5 years old, the way he behaved was, of course, you can't blame a 5-year-old so much, but just sees the way his life is going to develop. Actually, very demoniac. His grandparents are there and they want to treat him nicely, and he just makes a sour face and no, and just very egoistic, selfish, not at all pleasing. Whereas I was saying in Bengal especially, you'll see 5-year-old children, by the age of 5, their parents don't have to, when a sadhu comes, I guess that means me in most cases, and when they don't have to be told, even by the age of 5, they know immediately, bow down. It's so nicely trained. And then I was just in ISKCON Mayapur in Calcutta, and the devotees, they're trained up like that so nicely. I mean, they're just in their families, they're not even coming to ISKCON, but that attitude of respect and service to an elder person and sannyasi is very pleasing. And then the elder person and sannyasi, they want to give instruction, and then the juniors, they can learn. But if one has an attitude of, oh well, who's this guy? Just like in the school, they don't respect previously the teachers were so much respected. Now it's just a job. The teachers, for them, it's just a job, and they don't care for the students, and the students don't care for the teachers. And in the Western countries, it's quite normal. Anyway, the teachers are having sex with the students, left, right, and center. So how is there any respect? So then you get an animalistic civilization, and the people, the whole society, they're saying that we made progress. But what is the progress? The parents in the Western countries, they don't want to let their children out of the house, because they're afraid that just on the street someone will attack them and sexually abuse them or kill them. It's come to the extent in the Western countries that parents, they're afraid to let their children go outside the door of the apartment or the house. And therefore the children, they simply sit at home and watch TV, and they become fat. And it's a big problem, because the children are like so much overweight because they have no exercise from the beginning and they're just watching TV, and then what they're watching on TV, and so it's actually the whole society. It's just totally, in the Western countries, it's very difficult to find people of any good qualities, because the whole society is so demoniac, because it's based on personal sense desire, which means sex, and everything just becomes totally degraded. Now it's become a normal thing in America to have homosexual marriages. It's totally demonic. But if you say that, then you'll be taken to court. It's against the law to say anything against homosexuals. And even you're not allowed to recite the Bible where it speaks against homosexuals. It's against, they'll take you to court against the law. So America, which was modern America was founded because people wanted to follow the Bible. People left Europe because they had religious persecution and they wanted to follow the Bible according to their understanding. But now in America, at least certain passages from the Bible, you're not allowed to recite them because it goes against the idea that homosexuals should be tolerated and promoted. So many wrong ideas. They had the idea that by modern civilization we're becoming more civilized. But look what they're doing in Iraq. They threw out Saddam for being inhumane and killing people and torturing. So now the Iraqi people, instead of being killed and tortured by Saddam, they're being killed and tortured by Americans. So that's their fortune. Instead of being killed by Saddam, they're being killed by Americans. You see, you're very fortunate that we're American and we have come to torture you. Why you should be tortured by just low-class Arabs? We are Americans and we are torturing you. So, what is the advancement of civil? They say that we came to civilize the Arabs. It's the same reason the British gave for invading or taking over India. But where is the civilization? And they say that, well, we have to have women in public life and that will make things better because the women are, you see, they're more gentle than men and men are just horrible, nasty people. So we have to have women as leaders and women as prime ministers and women in the army. But it's the women, they're doing more torturing than the men in Iraq. The women in the army. They're more sadistic. So all their ideas are wrong, actually. In modern civilization, all the ideas of the Karmis, pretty much you can say, unless they happen to be in line with the Shastra, which is pretty rare, they're all wrong. Unfortunately, some of our devotees, our so-called devotees, are enamored by these Karmis and they want to, instead of following Shastra, they quote all these sociological studies. But as the saying goes, there are lies, damned lies and statistics. So these scientific studies, mostly they're meant for cheating people. Even like we saw that movie yesterday, Sadar Puta was talking about the cheating of the scientists in covering up evidence which shows that man, Homo sapiens, has existed for billions of years. He said it's not that people get together and they say let's have a conspiracy, but it just happens. People have a tendency to do that because they believe in a certain worldview and they don't want to accept that anything is different. So it's not that a group of scientists got together and say, hey, let's cheat the people. But it just happens like that because they believe that man came into being, I think it was 100,000 years ago when I was a kid. Now it's been put back to about 900,000 years or whatever. But the billions of years they can't accept. They can't accept because they're not objectively scientific. Because they want to maintain their worldview. It's the effect of Maya. Just like by Maya, even though it should have been obvious that the Yamadutas were coming, the devotee, it took her a long time to understand because we have a certain way of thinking and we don't want to change that. So it seems that many devotees, they're brought up in the Western culture and they can't get out of it. Even after 25 or 30 years of reading Prabhupada's books, they're trying to fit the knowledge in Prabhupada's books according to what they learned in school and from the TV. And if it doesn't fit, then they just ignore it, or they just try to adjust it, or they say, well, we can't preach in modern society unless we fit it according to modern theories. We won't be accepted by the mainstream. But hell, why do we want to be accepted by the mainstream? We're different. Isn't that the whole thing about the Krishna consciousness? We are different. We don't go along with your hellish demoniac society. Isn't that the whole point, that we don't want to be part of your hellish demoniac society? We are different. We don't care for your sociological theories. We care for Shastra. One word of Shastra is better than all your millions of years of your studies and your research theories, which all the sociologists disagree with each other anyway. What do you need a sociologist for anyway? You just open your eyes. The whole society is totally insane. You don't need a sociologist to tell you that. Or maybe the sociologist is trying to tell you that actually it is sane. Actually it's okay, it's all right. That it's not so bad after all. See that way. And anyway, even if it's bad, we'll do some genetic manipulation, and then everything will be all right. So, this doesn't seem to make sense here, that you should honor the Brahmana. Why the Brahmana? This is not. We believe in democracy. Everyone is all the same. Everyone is all equal. No. This is nonsense. In India now they respect, democracy. We're democracy. What is this democracy? That's got nothing to do with Vedic culture, human life. Democracy, the person, someone may be totally illiterate, have no character, and he has one vote. And someone who's very high class, educated, and they have one vote. So what does it mean? That you're going to vote in all the stupid people are in the majority? It means that you're going to just your vote, just like they voted in now. The Prime Minister is going to be an Italian housewife who just recently learned Hindi and has no experience of governing anything except her own household. So this is ridiculous. I mean, even she's not an experienced politician, and she's going to be the prime, because people are stupid. Because they're sentimental, because her son and daughter went out and they're young and they smiled and people like it, and they're stupid. So even from the material point of view, this idea, democracy, it's a very stupid idea. So, but people in India, they're totally taken up by this. So many wrong ideas. Previously it was considered, it's very auspicious to have many children. Now it's hum do hamare do. We are two, we have two children. Or hum do hamare ek. We are two, we have one. And they think it's very bad to have many children. So the whole values have changed due to wrong education. So it's very important. You're doing these Gita classes, going to the RSS and teaching them. They don't know any philosophy. They're just sentimentally Hindus. Out of some sentiment, they'll go and they might kill some Muslims. Why? They don't know. Because we're Hindus. That's also nonsense. So teach them. It's very difficult because the whole society is overcome by this demoniac ideas. And even within our society, they're trying to promote this now. Not only trying, but they are actually doing so. Due to misunderstanding. Instead of Guru Mokha Padmavakya Chitete Korea Aika Ana Korea Manayasha, it's Guru Mokha Padmavakya. Yeah, we'll listen to Prabhupada and we'll mix it up with a little sociology and psychology, and in this way they're bewildered. So, Hare Krishna. Any question?
We should follow the standard of Acharyas and Prabhupada in this what we are doing. But many times we don't know how much deep to follow, or how many, especially for rules, regulations, that we get confused.
You're confused how much to follow rules and regulations. Give an example.
Just like, when we are taking prasad, previously culture, when Basubash Prabhu comes, then he does prokshana and all this.
That kind of thing, prokshanam before taking prasadam, that can be individual. You can do?
Many things are like this. When he chants Gayatri or other things, his reason, he told that if anyway you are in India, anyway people follow by tradition, so why not?
Yeah.
Nobody is just...
Yeah, it's good. If you follow, that's good. It's not essential.
But then other side, devotees criticize, now you are too much into this, you become Vaishnava, Smarta, something like that.
You can tell them that all our acharyas did this.
Yes, Prabhupada never did, and then no way to improve.
Prabhupada never did, but he also didn't say not to do. It's not essential, but it's part of the Vedic culture, and like I say, all our acharyas. I would think, I don't know exactly Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur or Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but certainly previous to that they would have done.
I think it's good, as much as you can follow, why not?
Yeah.
So anyway, except
These Vedic rules, they are there to help uplift us. If you don't do it, it's not essential. If you do, it's also nice. Prabhupada wanted to introduce the Vedic culture.
Going to the spiritual world, chanting Hare Krishna is enough. What is the purpose of giving Brahma initiation in ISKCON?
Chanting Hare Krishna is enough, but especially for worshipping deities, there are specific mantras which have to be chanted. One has to be initiated as a Brahmana to do so. These mantras, they're also helpful in our spiritual advancement. Just like we have so many songs we're singing, so these also help us. So many Vaishnava bhajans. So we don't have to sing them, but they're also helpful.
Just like you are saying that in ISKCON also, we are introducing so many new things. Just like if you see Prabhupada way of preaching, he leads the people, he just chants Hare Krishna, he gives lecture on philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, and actually sincere people becomes devotees. But if you see the whole way of Bhakti Diksha program philosophy, there is no much stress for doing bhajans, doing harinam, speaking philosophy. There rather it seems we have to hear from the people, their ideas.
Oh right, yeah, I don't very much like that. They come together and they discuss what they think. People who don't know, I don't agree with that. They don't know, they just give their own speculative ideas. I don't agree with that.
And the devotee is forced to hear all that.
No, that's not a good idea. They should hear. That's the traditional system.
Just like you told, we are introducing our way of.
That was introduced from the Christians, I think.
Yes, we are seeing that in so many devotees, they are making so many devotees. They just go outside, do harinam. Just like in ISKCON, what we provide. They are just doing and people are becoming devotees.
No, those who are neophyte, they should hear from those who know. It's not good even to encourage them to speak and give their opinion, because their opinion is all rubbish. They should learn to hear, not that they should speak in whatever nonsense comes in there. They should learn the principle of Krishna consciousness is according to Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Otherwise then it just becomes all rubbish. If it's just whatever Krishna conscious in your own way. That's nonsense. Krishna conscious means in the Acharya's way. Mahajano yenagata sapanta. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.